Lizzie. I don't ever smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some ditsies. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Hi guys, Miss Liz in the house. That's right. And I have two incredible, beautiful ladies in the background. And we're going to talk about Romani fortune telling today. And we're going to break the stereotype and get some really tough questions out there for these beautiful ladies. But before we get started, you guys know how Miss Liz rolls. Get over to Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, all those good platforms, and give those a like, follow, and subscribe, and get these tea times out there because they do make a difference for everybody listening and for my guests as well. So let's get started with disclaimer and then a beautiful intro. And then we're going to get Jezmina in here and Paulina in here. And we're going to spill some tea together. And today's tea is teaching educational empowerment. Focus on your personal interpretation. Kind creative activism. Romani creators breaking stereotypes and uplifting community. That's the tea we're serving in today's house. So let's get started with disclaimer. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicating to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by the guests is based on their own experiences and is perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own good judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have questions regarding this disclaimer or content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me, aka Miss Liz, directly at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or check out my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the conversation with an open heart. And if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect your wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Well, welcome to Tea Time with Miss Liz, where stories cross borders and truth travels through generations. Today's guests bring us into a world often misunderstood, yet rich in history, resilience, and vibrant tradition. Joining us are Jezmina Voltaire, Thiele, and Paulina Stevens, co-host of the podcast Romanian Stan. Through Romanian Stan, they share authentic conversations about Roni culture, fortune-telling, traditions, identity, spirituality, and the lived experience of Roni people today. They speak with honesty, humor, and depth, challenging stereotypes while celebrating heritage. As Roni women and fortune tellers themselves, Jezmina and Paulina carry forward traditions that are ancestral, sacred, and often misrepresented. Their voices create space for education, understanding, and cultural pride. So grab your cup, lean in. Today's Tea Time invites us to listen beyond assumptions, to honor heritage, and to celebrate the beauty of storytelling rooted in truth. Please help me warmly welcome Jezmina, Voltaire, Thiele, and Paulina Stevens to the table. Let me get the ladies in here and let's spill some tea together. Welcome, ladies.
Hi, thanks for having us.
It is a pleasure. Well, I'm going to start off with Jezmina. Who were
Jezmina.
you? Who were you as a little girl, and who are you now? And then we'll jump into Paulina, and we'll get to who you were as a little girl and who you are now. And then we'll get into some of the questions and fortune telling and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I'm Jezmina, and as a child, I wrote a lot of poetry and sang a lot of songs, and I was learning fortune telling with my grandmother mostly, and struggled a lot in school, but was also really happy to be reading and writing, even though school wasn't exactly my favorite place to do that. And yeah, and I spent a lot of time in the woods because I grew up in New Hampshire, and my family was really big into foraging and gardening. And today I am the co-author of Secrets of Romani Fortune Telling with Paulina, and co-founder and co-host of Romanistan podcast with Paulina. And I'm also a writer, and I read tarot, palms, and tea leaves for clients. You can book with me at jezminavontiele.com. And yeah, I do a lot of fun things around activism and representation as well.
Cool. So, Paulina, who were you as a little girl, and who are you now?
So, as a little girl, I was someone who would take in any pet or bug off the street. And I still do that. And I think as a little girl, I was also responsible and worried all the time. And at the same time, artistic and a risk taker. And today, I am a holistic practitioner and also the co-host of Romanistan podcast and Secrets of Romani Fortune Telling with Jezmina Vantila. And I what else do I do? I mean, I don't know. I think I'm pretty much the same. I take in animals, and I really like music and art and history, and yeah.
Well, it kind of tells us a little bit of who you were as little girls, right? And who you are now as grown women. You kind of brought that little childhood into your adulthood, into the heritage that you guys grew up learning and that. So for all my listeners out there, what is Roni fortune telling?
I think it helps to start with understanding who the Roma are. So the Romani people are a diasporic ethnic group, which means that we no longer have a homeland. But Roma originally came from northwest India, parts of present-day Pakistan. New research from historians and linguists is showing that Roma started leaving, or the proto-Roma culture started leaving in waves from the 6th century to the 10th century. And we likely descended from the so-called untouchable caste of the Dalits, and then in the 10th century, the Ghaznavid Empire, an invading force, displaced the Indian army, which also became part of, this diaspora. And Roma are also known as gypsies. It's technically a racial slur. It's also a misnomer. And so it's a word that we prefer people don't appropriate. If you are Romani or a related group, use it all you want. It's your choice. But we're fine with that. We both grew up using the word gypsy for ourselves, but it's more about the way that it can be misapplied and appropriated is the issue. And so because of centuries of persecution, 500 years of slavery in present day Romania, and also we are not Romanians. It sounds similar, but we are not Romanian. And, centuries of multiple genocides and other types of marginalization, Roma have created survival trades that we have been able to work in the margins. It's part of our resilience and our cultural preservation. And metalworking, horse trading, performing. We have a lot of different beautiful survival trades. And Paulina and I just both happen to be born into fortune telling families. And so our fortune telling is also so influential across Western divination. And so we took the trades that we've been using for centuries, and they became popularized, especially in the Victorian era. And so much of what we do with tarot, palm, tea leaf reading, other types of cartomancy or tasseomancy has become popular, but people don't know where it comes from, and often have a lot of discrimination and prejudice toward Romani fortune tellers and dismiss us as scammers, even though, you know, we created these tools that are really meant for community care and spiritual awareness.
So if somebody came to you to have their fortune told, how does it work?
You want to take that, Paulina?
Yeah, so I guess the majority of people that come in to get a reading done, I don't think they're expecting, I'm not really sure if they're really expecting something. If it's their first time, they're usually like, oh, maybe it's just kind of a random thing. And it is a fun random thing, but it's also a spiritual practice. So this is a spiritual practice we've been doing for 1,000 years. We've been spiritual people that traveled um, throughout the West from India. And basically, we brought along a lot of those practices with us. So when someone is engaging in a reading, I think it's so commercialized in the media. Like you think you're going to get someone with kind of like, and sometimes you do because the world is very diverse,
Yeah.
but like maybe like a turban and I don't know, like some kind of, a coin belt and blah, blah, blah. And we do that sometimes, but it really is, I would say, a practice that should be respected, especially because it's our spiritual thing. So when someone comes in, that's what they receive. They receive a very intimate um, communication exchange, I would say, where we go off of our intuition, whether we're using different tools, whether we're using our own just intuition, whatever it is. Um, Basically, that is what the reading entails. Like if someone's getting a tarot card reading or a palm reading, like those are the things that, yeah, we'll look at your palm, we'll look at your cards, or we'll just read your face and your energy and tell you what we see.
Yeah.
Well, that's why when Jezmina reached out to me to be on Tea Time, I was like, I haven't had this on Tea Time, and there's so many people that do not understand fortune telling, because there are those people out there that are just playing and not understanding what they're doing, right? And I wanted to have you ladies on so that you could explain it and break that stereotype, because there is so much stereotype around fortune telling.
For sure.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes people might have a certain thing that they want to talk about, an intention. If they don't have questions or intentions, I always like to just ask, you know, what do they need to know right now as a way in? And but I know both Paulina and I mean, we wrote a book together about it, so our styles are really similar, and when they're different, we talk about it. But you know, we know that the processing is really important. We want to help people understand what they need to do for themselves and really empower people to use their free will and make choices. And the tools that we use have guidance that they can decide how they want to apply it, and we're there to help guide them. But we're not trying to tell anyone what to do necessarily.
So how were you each taught your traditions, and what does lineage mean to you?
Lineage?
Yeah, lineage.
Yeah, so I mean, I was taught around the age of 4. My grandmother started teaching me and explaining what it meant to be Romani. She had grown up in Nazi-occupied Germany and as a persecuted ethnic group, and so the stakes were high for her to keep her identity a secret. But while she was telling me these really challenging things about being Romani and why we needed to keep it a secret that we are, you know, quote unquote gypsies, she was also teaching me, you know, the tools that we use and why we use them, and how to meditate, and how to talk to plant spirits, and how to connect with like God energy. And I loved my grandmother. She was an extraordinary person. She was really funny and strong and smart and incredibly humble, and just had a very matter-of-fact way of doing incredible things. And so the learning was a really important part of my life. And because I grew up more assimilated and I'm mixed, I was also going to school at the same time. And so I was really, told I could do whatever I wanted when I grew up, but this was what our jobs had been through my mom's side. And this is something I could always do. And I don't know that she's expected me to go so hard with it and make it activism and education. But yeah, so it was a really beautiful part of my childhood. Paulina had a different experience, although some things were the same.
And Paulina, for you, how did you learn your tradition?
Yeah, so I want to also backtrack a little bit, maybe like 500 to 1,000 years ago. Um, Romani people were, persecuted, and they were forced out of their homes because of war, slavery, all that stuff. And we were traditionally spiritual people, I would say. And so basically, fortune telling, as well as other trades like metalworking and horse trading, all of those things were also used. So basically, fortune telling was something we could do on the go. And that's just a simple way to put it. Like, we can just take out someone's palm and then ask for donations, or however it was. Like, it was a job that we can do from anywhere. So fast forward here, my family, my subgroup of Romani people, I grew up in a close community. They practiced fortune telling, and that was the only thing we were allowed to do. Um, Especially like as women, we're not allowed to kind of interact too much with the rest of society. We're not even really allowed to go to school, not really allowed to drive. But after after a long period of time, like, we basically get permission to like drive, or something like that. But for other things like working a regular job or pursuing education, it's actually looked down upon in my specific subgroup. So fortune telling was something I had to learn, and I had to do, and I did have a great time learning it. Even though it was kind of forced on me, it was nice growing up. Like, my mom would have all these spiritual books and bring me into her practice, and we just every woman in the family did it, so everybody was practicing it, and they had tips and stories, and it was just it was really cool. But as I got a little bit older and left my community, I took time away from fortune telling to pursue other things. And then, of course, I found myself back to it, just like you, kind of, Jess. Like, you just can't really deny it, I guess.
Well, we have a question that came in, and it says, what inspired you to preserve and share your cultural heritage publicly?
Racism is the short answer. Yeah, I think facing racism even in the US, when I did let it slip, that we were, quote unquote gypsies. I was bullied at school. Teachers gave me detention for giving the evil eye. I grew up with horrifying war stories from my grandmother, and stories of the people we were related to or that she had been friends with dying in terrible ways. And there was just so much fear about being seen. And my grandmother's best friends at her funeral did not know that she was Romani. And so when I was giving her eulogy, they all learned something new about their bestie. Like, that's how afraid she was. And she wasn't scared of anything. So she was being practical. And the amount of racism that Roma face worldwide is extraordinary. We know it's much worse in Europe, and Paulina and I have a relative privilege being in the US, but and I have even more relative privilege having access to education and having been assimilated. And it seemed so important that the things that I loved so much that I was using to help people should be acknowledged, and that Roma should be shown to be just another culture, not fetishized magical creatures, not criminal monsters, not just wanderers with no culture or morals. Like, we're a real culture, a real ethnic group. We have real practices. And not only do we have these things, but they have contributed a lot to all of the places that we've been and traveled through. We have the English word lollipop because of Romani culture. Like, we have interacted with and improved the societies around us. Some of your favorite music might be Romani, or your, like, there's our food, like all of these wonderful things. And yet we're so demonized all the time because extreme poverty and extreme marginalization it creates like terrible circumstances. It's difficult to overcome those. So, yeah, it felt really important to do this mostly thankless work of, because it's also complicated to represent people who mostly don't want to be represented, because that racism has been so extreme that people can be uncomfortable even if you are advocating for Romani rights. They might not necessarily want you to talk about our culture. And I understand that and respect that. Yeah, Paulina, what inspired you?
So my reason for, I guess, wanting to come out was pretty similar in the same way. Like, I feel that the world needs to know. And honestly, lying just felt wrong. Like, I was like, I'm from this country, I'm from that country. Like, even though I was low key, like, yeah, my heritage exists in there, I would never want to say, like, oh yeah, like, I'm gypsy, like, blah blah blah. And so I think I just felt like I really stopped caring, and I started caring more about yeah, like, why people should know. And also people in my own community and culture, people in the close community that I had basically walked away from, I felt needed to know that it's okay to, like, be open and proud of where not even where you're from, but yeah, like, where you're from and who you are. And despite the persecution, like, it doesn't matter, you know so
Yeah. We have another question that came in for you girls. And it says, how did the younger generation respond to these traditions today?
I could take this one. Okay, so I feel like we have had such a mix of responses, I think, to what we've been seeing about just fortune telling, our work in general. I think the younger generation is amazing at activism work. I definitely have to say that. They're making videos, and they are advocating, and they raise money, and they do a lot. And so I feel like the younger generation really understands. And then we also have another, I guess, part of the younger generation, I think, that is still feeling like, very opposite views. Like, I think just like you would see in any kind of group or minority, in people that have experienced just a long history of poverty and racism and just difficult things. And so some of them are feeling connected to the spiritual work and fortune telling. Some of them are feeling like, why are you doing that? Or religious things that are getting in the way. We have a lot of mixed responses, I would say.
Jezmina, do you want to add to that?
I am also noticing, I agree with everything Paulina said, absolutely. I've also noticed too that, so something else is that I am publicly queer, and I think that it's been nice for our younger readers or listeners, depending how they find us. We talk about that in the book, and we talk about, gender identity and sexuality and being mindful of whoever you're reading for. It's like, you don't know their life and you don't want to assume anything about them, and you want to affirm who they are. And we've had a really lovely write-ins from young LGBTQ plus Roma who have not really seen themselves represented too many other places. And so they were really happy about that. And I also think that divination in general for queer people can be really empowering, because so many major religions are not accepting of queer folks. Even though those teachings might be about love, it's more about how people interpret what the religions are. And so a lot of queer people will turn to other spiritual practices to get guidance and feel connected and feel seen. And I love that divination is there for LGBTQ plus folks, Roma or whoever, because yeah, it is affirming, and you're perfect the way you are.
Well, let's talk about this book because you guys mentioned the book a couple of times. I'm going to bring Paulina in. If it squeaks, I'm just muting you one at a time so that we don't have any back voice. But Paulina, I'm going to bring you up. Let's talk about this book that you guys have written together.
Yeah, so this book, I think it's more interesting than what people would expect. We do go into a lot of our personal life experiences as well as history, and we also highlight a lot of other Romani practitioners. So yeah, it's a really great divination book. We cover everything. We even cover like professionalism. We cover our own personal practices. We go into kind of easy how-tos. Some of the beginning chapters are about basically like fine-tuning your intuition. And I think you'll learn a lot about yourself as you go into this book, because it is, yeah, like I mean, it's super spiritual. Like it doesn't get any more personal than that.
Jezmina, do you want to share a little bit about the book?
Yeah, I agree with what Paulina said. It's part how-to guide for tarot, palm, tea leaf reading, and also we cover a lot of other things like trinket reading and fire gazing and things that Roma are known for and really good at, but they might not be popular. So if you are looking for new ways to flex your intuition, and we also wrote it the way that we were taught. So we were thinking about how we were taught as kids. So we give you examples for how to exercise your intuition and how to read these things intuitively, because there are plenty of palmistry books, tarot books that tell you just what the card meanings are, and those are super important and great. But we wanted to give you tools to read in the style that we read. And also, like Paulina was saying, we're professional. We approach this work as both a spiritual practice and a job. And so we've had really lovely feedback from readers who are starting off new, being professional, reading our chapters on that and feeling more equipped, because it's not, usually professionalism is not something that people always think about what makes a good reader, but you have to know how to work with people and run your business and be like confident and be mindful and have that mixture of compassion and boundaries, and we'll help with that. So, and we do that through storytelling. We tell you how we learned.
And that's what I really enjoy. I love storytelling because I feel that that is a new generation that is going to become the difference of making a difference in the world today, is having the stories out there and actually understanding and opening the doors and having these open heart-to-heart conversations one-on-one, without the judgment, without the stereotyping. And then when you don't understand something, get to learn to understand it. And that's why I love having guests like you girls on here, because we can open those conversations up. We have another question that came in for you guys. And it is, what advice would you give to someone wanting to respectfully learn about Roni culture?
Yeah, so there are so many wonderful resources by Romani people, and we recommend that you go right to the source. So rather than reading things by people who are not us, about us, like read from us. And so if you wanted to get into fortune telling, check out our book, check out Lisa Boswell's book and April Wall. There are some, really fantastic Romani creators out there, but there's also a wonderful book called Roma, A Traveling History by Madeline Potter. And that is the most recent book about Romani history and culture. And she also tells that through storytelling as she's learning about her culture's history. And I think look for Romani creators. Listen, Romanisan podcast we created to help people find how to learn more about Roma culture. So we talk to amazing Romani people from all different walks of life who are doing great things. So if you just scroll through the people that we've talked to over the last, 5 years, you'll definitely find something that you're interested in. And we try to do a lot of uplifting with our social media, Romanisan podcast. On Instagram, we will repost things by wonderful Romani people. So see who we're following there, and you'll discover some really magnificent people. It's like once you start looking, then you start to know like how to find us.
Paulina, do you want to add to that?
I would say I definitely concur with everything that Jess has mentioned. Just finding Roma, following along. I think following along, I'll put a little extra emphasis on that because we get new information all the time. So when you could, keep keep updated, and we do that like at Romanistan podcast. I think we're one of the first, like, I mean there are some, but we're just really active in some of the first active kind of oral history archive, I guess, like we were talking about. But yeah, I would say follow along. We learn new stuff ourselves, so yeah, like we want to take you guys along that ride.
Well, we have a question here, and it's how can non-Romi people engage respectfully with Roni culture?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
You're
let me get Jasmine in here. There we go.
There's a really great saying, be a good house guest, give more than you take. And so think about why you want to engage with Romani culture and what you want to enjoy about it. And then if you are in any way profiting off of it, like let's say that you want to play Manouche jazz, which is the correct term for like gypsy jazz. And is there a way for you to collaborate with Romani musicians? Is there a way for you to educate about where this music comes from by uplifting Romani creators and directing people to their work? Can you raise money for a Romani charity? And so you want to think about, like, you're not speaking for us. you're highlighting people who are already out here doing the work. And you're thinking about like why you want to engage with it and make sure that your intentions are good. If you're thinking in an extractive kind of way where it's like, oh, I want to present myself as like a Romani reader, you present yourself as your own reader, but you might say that you read this book and recommend it and say that you got these techniques from these places, and then talk about why Romani representation is so important. So basically, like, nothing about us without us. Make sure to include Romani people. If you're putting on a festival or something and you want Romani people there to create Romani cultural experiences, do it with us rather than inspired by us. Does that make sense?
That does. And I like that you said that because a lot of people like to interpret different cultures and traditions without understanding it, right? So get the people that actually live it and are part of that culture involved.
Totally. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Right? And sometimes that's where the misunderstanding comes in. Because I was told that I shouldn't be saying the word gypsy anymore. And you girls have mentioned gypsy a lot during this conversation. So why is there such a stereotype on that word gypsy?
Because of racism. It's a racist word. It's always been a racist word. It was a word that was created specifically to legally persecute Romani people when they came into England. And so
it is a racial slur.
It just is.
Well, we can say it.
We can say it. And it's one of those words where sometimes people will try to compare it to other racial slurs. And, every culture has its history and its language. There are organizations that have like Roma Gypsy Traveler Organization, because some people might identify, the word is complicated, but we grew up with it. We might identify with that word, even if we don't want people to call us a gypsy and spit on us, or even if we don't want people to say, I was gypped when people cheated them, because that means to cheat like a gypsy. Even if we don't want, a white influencer to call themselves Gypsy Wanderer Travels, because that is both erasure and using privilege to, let me put it this way. Being an actual Romani traveler moving through the world is extremely different than the privileged perspective. And so when we are whitewashed out of our own culture with this like idea of what a gypsy is, it is very hard for us to advocate for human rights. Everyday non-Romani people tell us that we are not real, that gypsy just means wanderer or magical. When we have people who are living, like 90% of the Roma in Europe are living in poverty, jails are full of Roma on trumped up charges because of police brutality. Like, there are ongoing hate crimes. Like, it's a problem to want to make this mean something else. it doesn't mean that you're a bad person if you didn't know. It doesn't mean you're a bad person if you're singing along to Stevie Nicks and you're like, oh, I love this song. But it's important to understand why the word matters and that words mean things and they matter for that. Like, it's been used for hundreds of years to persecute us. We can use it all we want. And if it makes people uncomfortable, like, honey, there are other things to worry about.
There are bigger fish in the sea.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're not a Romani, you can just say the G word.
Yeah. Or, you know, if you have to talk about it, if you're like, oh yeah, she said the G word earlier or something. But otherwise, Roma and Romani, like, those are perfect words to use.
We have another question that just came in. I want to get it up to you girls. It's, how do you protect authenticity in a modern world?
Well, you have to be authentic. That's the only way. You really do. You have to be yourself. You have to talk about the uncomfortable things. You have to talk about the difficult things, the hard things, the things that other people might deem as shameful, and basically let it all out in the open. And I feel that when everything is out and there's not a lot, I mean, we still, we talk about secrets of Romani fortune telling, like, there are still some practices that we keep to ourselves that we don't share with the public, but whatever we feel that we can and whatever we've discussed with, like, amongst our community, we share. And so some people are okay with it, some people are not, but that's how we do it today, is we have to be real.
Yeah, I think live by your values too. I mean, I think it's always nice to do a values check and see what values mean to you and if there's a way to live by them. And I know for us, you know, we really want to uplift our community. And so with every project that we do, with the way we run our social media, you know, with the way that we write our books, we try to use this as an opportunity, not just to talk about ourselves, but to spotlight, like, amazing Roma who are doing things past and present, and just give people so many points of reference so we're not the only representation that they know.
I want to talk about your podcast because I like getting other podcasts out there, because it's not just one podcast, right? There's millions of podcasts out there. Let's talk about your podcast. How did it start and what kind of listeners do you have and where do you target the listeners?
Okay. So we talk about this question. So I'm going to tell you the first half and then Jez is going to finish the rest. So how it started was when I first walked away from my community and my arranged marriage. I was also going through a custody battle, and it was just really heavy having a whole community kind of basically they had excommunicated me, and also there was a lot of other weird things happening. It's really weird when you get a very old traditional community and, like, merge it into, like, you know, the 2020s in the USA. Like, it's kind of a weird combination, and it felt like there was a lot of misinformation on both sides. It felt like people within my community had kind of wrong ideas about what would happen if we were allowed kind of a voice and freedom, and then people outside of the community really didn't like gypsies. And so it was just like this weird, I guess, area that I found myself in. And I was actually watching an educational video that Jez had published somewhere, and I was like, oh my god, I really need to talk to them. And I guess I had reached out through email and then a call, and I just kind of had this idea, like, we got to talk about this. If nobody else is talking about this, like, these stories have to be told. Everybody needs to know, like, what's going on all sides, and we got to get something out in the open. And then Jez was like, no, I am not the one. And so you can take it from here.
Let me unmute her. There we go.
Yeah, so when Paulina reached out, I was like, oh, what a wonderful idea. I would love to help. I can't do it. And it was because my mother had just passed away. It was also because I was having a lot of complicated feelings about what it meant for me to take up any space in Romani activism as a mixed heritage person who grew up assimilated. And so I started asking a bunch of my friends, would you want to do this podcast? Here's this person, here's what she's doing. And everyone was like, you should just do it. Like, stop being weird about it.
just do it. I tell everybody, just do it.
Yeah. And those friends gave me really good advice where they're like, just continue to make super clear that you're of mixed heritage and that you're speaking from your perspective as someone who grew up assimilated. Like, just be very, very clear about who you are. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then I had a little time to recover. And I was like, what if we did it in February, give ourselves a few months? And Paulina was like, perfect, let's do that. And so we started thinking about what we wanted to do. And we decided that we wanted to have a podcast where we could address really hard things, but do it through celebrating Romani culture and interviewing people who we thought were doing great things. And so we can talk about, genocide or arranged marriage or domestic violence or, racism, but we might be doing that by interviewing a successful actress who just put out the first Romani feminist trap album, or a chef who runs his own food truck. And so while we get real with all of our guests about what the experience is like being Roma, we also come from a very celebratory place, and we use it as an opportunity to shed light on people who we think more people should know about and be fans of, and buy their artwork or eat their food or listen to their music.
Paulina, we had a question about arranged marriages. I want to bring you up to talk about that. Let me see. There we go. Got you unmuted. If you'd like to share a little bit, you're not forced to, but if you'd like to share a little bit about your arranged marriage that you had.
Yeah, so I knew that I was going to have an arranged marriage very young, probably as young as I could remember. And I was allowed to go to elementary school. So I did go to elementary school, even though it wasn't really that big of a priority. My parents wanted me to know kind of basics like reading and writing. And I was taken out of elementary school in 6th grade in order to basically prepare for marriage. So that is what I was doing, kind of like cooking, cleaning, learning how to make money, like basically adult life, but under more control, I guess. And I knew who I was going to get married to at the age of 14. And at the age of 17, there was this, they call it kind of like a dowry or like a money exchange. And in some cultures, that is what it is. But that isn't really the reality of it. Once the family kind of receives money, it's very much like I own you, and you have to do what I say. You have to dress how I want you to dress, go where I want you to go, wake up when I want you to wake up. Like everything is very, very controlled. And there are good things about the culture and growing up in the community. Not every family is like that. I just so happened to kind of basically be married into a very strict, conservative, abusive family. And basically that didn't work out for me. I was like, I don't think so. And then it was a very lengthy process trying to separate myself over the past, I don't know, almost 10 years, like 7, 8 years or so. And I still haven't even completely separated from this process and these people in certain parts of the community, because I am still Romani. I am a part of this community. And also, there are so many Roma around the world, and yeah, so arranged marriage is not something that, from my own personal experience, I really like or recommend. I think when certain people are old enough and they're like, yeah, like, go ahead, mom and pops, like, find me someone to marry, that's cool. But forcing it upon people, it's just not all right.
I'm just going to unmute Jezmina. Jezmina, did you go through an arranged marriage as well?
I did not. I just wanted to add a little historical context too. Like Paulina said, not all communities practice arranged marriages. And I think the last arranged marriage that happened in my family was like my great grandmother was supposed to marry someone and she eloped instead, and then it sort of like broke the the chain in my family. But the practice of arranged marriage first can look really different, like Paulina was saying, among communities, and second comes from 500 years of slavery. And so while people might have strong reactions to the idea of arranged marriage, understanding that it comes from a history where for so long enslaved Romani people were not able to protect their children from the people who thought that they owned them. And their best effort to protect their daughters was to hope that the people who were enslaving them would respect the sanctity of marriage and not sexually exploit these girls. And so the practice of marrying off daughters very young came from this horrific history and is not about anything that's inherently Romani, even though a lot of Romani people might see arranged marriages as something that might preserve purity or, you know, all these other things. And so what Paulina and I like to talk about a lot on the show is how important it, like we feel very strongly that being a teenager is too young to decide whether or not you want to be in an arranged marriage. You're not an adult yet, you don't know. And so, you know, we're fine with whatever adults want to do. But yeah, so that's something that we like to share too, because the practice without historical context can sometimes be confusing.
Well, I'm really glad that we're having this conversation because we're getting a lot of good information out there. Paulina, how did you get out of that arranged marriage?
It was a very lengthy process. I escaped kind of in the middle of the night, and I had my clients, who were also actually my friends, help me as well, kind of like being the drivers or even having like a shoulder to lean on. And at first I had just left the marriage itself and I went back to live with my family, but then my family was very against all the other things I wanted to do, like fight for custody of my daughters and things like that. So then I decided to basically I had to separate from everybody and just kind of find my own path. And I actually talk a lot more details on that with the Los Angeles Times podcast, Foretold. And they kind of go into the details and basically, yeah, all the details of my leaving that process. Yeah. I also just wanted to let you know, my phone battery is draining, even though I had it 50% charged. It's really, really draining right now, so I might have to go soon, but I'm
Well,
sorry.
Paulina, before your battery dies, give some final words on where people can find you and all that good stuff, and then we'll get that out there.
Okay, so
Up with
people
Jezmina. I don't want to lose you, but I want you to get your final message out.
for sure. So people can find me at romaniholistic.com, ROMANI holistic.com, and you can schedule a session with me. I am a holistic practitioner, so I do I do spiritual readings and things like that, and I also do wellness programs and life coaching. So if anybody wants to have a conversation, let me know. And I also have a lot of holistic products. I actually just made a batch of soaps. So,
So, Paulina, what would you like my listeners to get from you today? The final message from you, and then we'll go into Jezmina and wrap it up.
I would say the final message is everybody do your research and have compassion, because you never know what people go through. You never really know who people are. And even if you don't, have compassion anyway. And yes, support Roma owned businesses. That's also a really good way to get involved. And a lot of Roma businesses actually do a lot of what we do. We are Roma businesses and we have a podcast, and we really do support each other. So yeah.
Well, I really want to thank you, Paulina, for joining us. I don't want you to pop up when your battery dies in case you need your battery. So I'll let you jump out, and I'll wrap up with Jezmina. And I really appreciate you ladies coming today and sharing with me.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So Jezmina, I want to talk to you about how people can reach you and what services you offer. Oh, let me unmute you. There we go.
You can find me at jezminavontiela.com. I offer tarot, palm, and tea leaf readings over Zoom. I also do audio and written readings. I send out one tarot card, greeting cards. Like, there's all kinds of options, but I also do creative coaching, and because I'm a writer and an artist and performer. And so that's also a really fun thing to do. We can incorporate divination or not. And so I have Romanathon podcast with Paulina, and also I have another podcast, Immaterial World, with my co-host Jessica Richards, and that is a podcast about spirituality, wellness, beauty, glamour, art, culture, and all of its intersections. And we interview practitioners and creators there. And we also work with creators in our Immaterial World creative container, and just released a tarot video for the Seven of Cups. And we'll be doing a lot of educational tarot videos, sometimes collaborating with brands. And so Jessica Richards and I kind of have a combo of like a creative agency and our platform there. And you can find that at immaterial-world.com, and follow us on Immaterial World Pod on Instagram. And I'm also just at jezmina.vontiela on Instagram. And yeah, so those are some fun ways to work with me. Also, I have a Patreon where I do a lot of more intimate kind of gatherings. I do community readings. And so if you want to get more content, if you're hanging out on my social media and want a little more, check out my Patreon. It's just my name.
Well, Jezmina, I'm really honored that you found me and that you came to my table, because I learned a lot from you today, and all of my listeners have learned a lot as well. Having these open heart conversations really does open the doors and make some understanding of the misunderstandings. So one word that defines your work, Jezmina, what word would that be?
Say that again.
One word that defines your work.
Dynamic. Yeah.
And a stereotype you're tired of?
Really all the associated stereotypes with gypsy, the criminal, the magical, the degenerate, the wanderlust. Like, I'm over it.
And what does teaching with kindness mean to you?
I think it means listening more than you talk, which is something that we don't often think about with teaching. And I have taught in a lot of different capacities. I've been an English professor, I've been a middle school teacher, I teach workshops all the time, so you can check out my website for that too. And I think asking questions and assuming, good faith from people when they ask questions that they might not know how to navigate. And so I tend to, if I feel like I don't know where a student is coming from, I just want to ask more questions and really listen and see what they're trying to understand. And and being well-intentioned, like thinking about why you want to teach as your North Compass, or as your North Star, or your compass.
And one thing listeners should unlearn?
I think reactivity. I know that I work with that, the impulse to immediately feel really strongly and want to act out of that feeling. I feel like social media is such a place of reactivity. And I think that's a good thing to notice in ourselves and work with.
And Jezmina, do you have any workshops or events that are coming up that you'd like to mention that you and Paulina might be doing?
Yeah, so the first one is I'm presenting at this wonderful conference called Botanica Obscura, and you can get tickets through my website or through Botanica Obscura. And I'm presenting on Friday, March 6th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. about Romani folk herbalism and the use of weeds. But what's really great about the conference is that if you can't attend live, you can just watch all the recordings later. So you can sign up for a day pass or a full weekend pass. And then we haven't officially announced this yet, but Paulina and I are going to be collaborating with a really gifted Romani herbalist and Ayurvedic practitioner, Jeneline Joseph. And we'll be teaching a series of classes on tarot and herbalism. And our first one is going to be in April. So if you sign up for the Romanasan Patreon or, my newsletter at jezminavantila.com, you can stay in touch and keep abreast of all that stuff. And we'll have even more things coming up.
And everybody can find this on your website, correct?
Yeah, jezminavantila.com is the most updated. And so, check out what we're doing there.
Well, Jezmina, I really want to thank you for joining me today on Tea Time and for bringing the history to the table, because that's what we need. We need the history, and we need to break that stigma and the stereotype. I want to thank all the listeners out there. Jezmina, I want to just jump into the tea really quickly before we wrap up. The tea that you gave me was teaching educational empowerment, focus on your personal intuition. Could you tell me a little bit about that tea?
I am all about teaching divination through the lens of everyone is already intuitive and you have a lot of inner wisdom, and your emotions can sometimes be your best guide and they can also be misleading. So it's important to work on emotional regulation as part of your work with intuition. And so I really like to empower people through the work that I do. And I know Paulina does too. We're helping you learn to use your intuition, not rely on other people's intuition or interpretation of your life.
And any special shout outs you'd like to give on Tea Time today?
Yeah, we just did a wonderful interview with Mina Rose, who is a Romani musician, dancer, reader. Oh my God, she does everything. And we always loved Mina Rose. And then we got to talk to her for an hour, and we were grief stricken that she lives in London and we can't hang out every day. And so please go listen to her episode. We have her music like woven into it. She's just spectacular. She's an Afro-Romani creator who everyone should know. And you can also listen to her music on Spotify or wherever you get music.
And where can people find your podcast?
We are everywhere podcasts live. And we're also you can, if you don't, for whatever reason, want to use a podcast platform, you can listen through our website, romanasanpodcast.com, or through our Patreon, which is just Romanasan Podcast on Patreon.
Well, thank you so much again. Thank you to all the listeners, and thank you for all the new tune in and joining Miss Liz's Tea Time. I really appreciate you guys. I'm just going to do a wrap up of what today's Tea Time was about. What a rich and eye-opening tea time this has been. Jezmina and Paulina, thank you for sharing your culture with clarity, strength, and grace. You reminded us that tradition is not something frozen in the past. It is alive, evolving, and carried forward through voice and visibility. Today, we learned that representation matters, that understanding begins with listening, that stories told by those who live them hold a power that no stereotype ever could. Through Romanian Sten, you are not only preserving culture, you are reshaping the narrative. You are inviting the world to replace curiosity rooted in myth with curiosity rooted in respect. To everyone watching, may you leave this tea time more informed, more open, and more mindful of the richness that exists beyond what we think we know. Until our next gathering, keep your cup open, keep your mind curious, and keep choosing conversation that expands your world. I will be back tonight at 7 p.m. with the last tea time of February, and then we're going to jump into March. And look out for the press release. The press release will be going out tomorrow of the 17 incredible guests that will be joining Miss Liz in March and then April. And the whole year is full of just incredible guests like Jezmina and Paulina. And I want to thank you guys again for bringing your culture to my table and to my tea. We want to do it together. So again, everybody, if you haven't heard of Miss Liz, go and check out Miss Liz's platforms. Give those a like, follow, and subscribe. And Paulina, thank you again for joining me today on Tea Time. It was incredible, and I really, truly honored this tea time with you.
Thank you so much. It really meant a lot for us, to us, to have us on, and we really appreciate you. Thank you. And
Well, thank
thanks
you so
everyone
much.
listening.
Thank you so much. And I'll see everybody 7 p.m. and we'll do it all over again.